Hello. Can you separate more symmetrically, please? Well, as a President of the Council, I have some press elements for you. The members of the Security Council heard from Jean Arnaud, Special Representative of the Secretary General to Colombia, on the work of the UN mission since its inception last month. The members of the Council noted the outcome of the plebiscite on October 2. The members of the Council welcomed the parties' continuing commitment to uphold the ceasefire and noted the request by the parties on October 7 for the UN mission to monitor and verify the bilateral ceasefire. In light of that, the members of the Council looked forward to the recommendations of the Secretary General on the mandate of the mission. The members of the Council encouraged the parties and all political actors to maintain momentum in the peace process and reiterated their full support for those efforts. The members of the Council agreed to keep the mission's mandate under review in light of those efforts and looked forward to the Secretary General's appropriate recommendations. The members of the Council expressed their full support for SRSG Arnaud in his work. So those are the press elements which were agreed by the members of the Council in the process of those discussions. Any questions on Colombia? Thank you very much. Sorry?
The slightest summary of what happened this morning.
Not allowed by some delegations. Not allowed. As you know, they're working so hard bilaterally that they don't want, As I say, consistency is not the strong suit of some members of the Council. Let me put it this way, as delicately as I can. But then let me make some comments in my national capacity. As you know, an important announcement was made in Moscow this morning that the airstrikes by the Russian aerospace forces and Syrian air forces in the Aleppo area were halted at 7 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time today, on October 18. We believe that under these circumstances, it's extremely important for member states with influence on the armed opposition groups in eastern Aleppo and beyond to intensify efforts to separate expeditiously all moderate opposition forces from terrorist entities designated by the Security Council. We believe also that it is extremely important under these circumstances for all parties to prevent material and financial support from reaching individuals, groups, undertakings, and entities associated with terrorist groups designated by the Security Council. And we strongly insist that any party stop fighting in collaboration with them, separate from them, and formally subscribe to the cessation of hostilities. And we have prepared a draft press statement to that effect. We hope it will be approved by members of the Council before too long. But at this point, let me emphasize this is the position of the Russian Federation.
Are you giving the opposition or Al-Nusra Front a deadline to do what you said yesterday and today?
My understanding is that the announcement of this humanitarian pause for the 20th of October was made for them to prepare that they will have an opportunity to leave the city. So now the airstrikes were halted in advance of the beginning of this humanitarian pause, but everything should be set in place. All the arrangements should be ready by 8 o'clock on the 20th for the humanitarian pause to be taken advantage of in terms of the armed people who would like to leave the city or the civilians who would like to leave the city. And of course, if the humanitarians can take this opportunity to provide some humanitarian assistance to the people of Eastern Aleppo, that also would be welcome.
Ambassador, on Colombia, do you expect that there will be a new resolution to adapt the mandate? Or do you expect a new resolution to update the mandate on Colombia, or it can be done?
Well, not necessarily. I think we expect 2 letters from the Secretary General. One letter, we were told, is going to come very soon on the role of the UN mission there in observing, monitoring the ceasefire. And then there's going to be another letter when the new arrangements are finalized. Some corrections are made to the previous arrangements, which were not approved during the referendum. And then we would expect new recommendations from the Secretary General. They might come in a separate letter, or they might come in a report he is going to give to the Security Council in December. And then we'll see what we need to do. It may well be that the short response from the Security Council will be sufficient, or there may be a need for something else, but it's too early to say.
Ambassador, given that Russia have halted the airstrikes earlier than planned, how long do you plan to keep that in place?
Well, you know, this, of course, I have no authority to describe that or to talk about that. The word which is used in the statement which was made today by our Minister of Defense is very strong. It says it talks about stopping, halting, ceasing. It's a rather strong definition of our intentions. But certainly in Syria everything depends on the circumstances, and I think much will depend on whether the things I have described in my remarks today as something which we believe would be extremely important now, that will play an important role in the future developments.
We've heard from some of the rebel groups.
You are too far to the left, you know. You need to move to the center. Move center stage.
I like being on the left.
Please.
We've heard from some of the rebel groups who have said that they are not interested in the safe passage out of Aleppo or what have you. What makes you think that in the coming days something could happen on the ground that could shift that?
Well, first of all, the work will commence tomorrow. Yesterday I expressed the hope that it might start on the 17th. Apparently there was a slight shift in scheduling, so now they are supposed to get down to the business tomorrow of trying specifically to separate on the map at least the so-called moderate groups and Jabhat al-Nusra. I hope that this kind of a work, and most importantly the signal which particularly those countries who participated in the meeting in Lausanne are supposed to give to the so-called moderate opposition they are close to, will make them make the right decision. Either they move out of the city or they separate from Nusra and recommit themselves to cessation of hostilities regime. But something needs to be done about Nusra. Well, first of all, the moderates need to be separated from them, and then Nusra has to leave the city, or it will be confronted by some unpleasant consequences.
Ambassador?
Did these countries give you, or did they say any date, or did they talk about any time frame for their efforts to take place with Nusra? And
well, they promised to start right away, and they promised at least some of them to participate in this work in Geneva of separation of Nusra from moderate opposition, the moderate opposition from Nusra. So I hope they will continue acting in the spirit of the meeting of Lausanne.
My turn. Ambassador, earlier the UN said they didn't have all the guarantees they need to do the aid deliveries. Has Moscow, from your end, given the necessary guarantees?
Well, I'm maybe not aware of some detailed discussions. Our embassy in Damascus is in constant hourly discussion and communication with the UN humanitarians there. I know that they say that for a full-fledged operation they need 48 hours at least. But now that the bombing was halted at 7 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time, hopefully they will have time to sort of prepare better and take advantage of those 8 hours. But, I think what we are trying to do now is more than just, one humanitarian pause. It's an effort to try to find a way for a radical turn for the better for the people in eastern Aleppo. Thank you very much.
What time is your press statement under silence till today?
Well, 5, but I'm afraid some members of the council might need additional time to look into it.